It's 8 p.m. and here are our top stories.
50s and 60s today, but a big cool down tomorrow. I'm tracking the next cold front that's going to bring snow to the front range.
Violent crime on the rise across the metro.
Nobody should feel that it's dangerous to walk home from work or store at night or to play with their kids in their neighborhood.
State lawmakers introduced their plan to curb crime.
This is the first step, important step, in the direction of making Colorado safer, and we look forward to getting it done.
Meanwhile, known drug dealers selling the deadly opioid fentanyl, walking out of court and back to the streets.
We arrest the same people over and over. They need to be locked up, and they need to atone for what they've done.
Denver 7 investigates new data and looks deeper into the escalating opioid crisis.
COVID-19 cases coming down, and so are mask mandates. But doctors aren't letting their guard down yet.
We don't know what will come next. The science on this virus is continuing to evolve.
Plus, one group helping hundreds of kids ride into a happier, healthier future.
Well, just when you thought things were warming up, snow is on the way for Denver and the mountains starting tomorrow. Good evening and thank you for watching Denver 7 News on Local 3. I'm Jessica Porter.
I'm Danny New. I'm very confused by the weather here. I'm still getting used to it. So it was in the 60s today, and now all of a sudden we have a weather action day?
Yeah, Chief Meteorologist Mike Nelson joining us live in the studio now with how much snow we can expect. Good evening, Mike.
Good evening. Welcome to my world, Danny.
I'm starting to get to know it. It's so confusing.
So today, high temperature in Denver, 61 degrees. We had 50s across northeast Colorado, Greeley almost at 50, mid-60s to the south, and it's still mild out there. We're 49 degrees in Denver. Temperatures have dropped a little bit up at Fort Collins and Greeley, but not by all that much. High clouds across the state currently, but the weather makers to the north of us, this cold front that's going to slip in here after midnight and by tomorrow afternoon, bring us a substantially different day than today. So our weather headlines, the cold front coming in early Friday. Snow develops by early afternoon, picks up by the time we get to the evening drive. Snow ending about midnight to 2 a.m. on Saturday. It'll be warmer again by Sunday and Monday, but we will have accumulating snow here tomorrow evening, and I'll let you know just how much to expect coming up in about 15 minutes.
Thank you, Mike. Well, Governor Polis wants to make Colorado one of the 10 safest states in the country. Currently, we're somewhere in the middle of the pack.
Lawmakers have a package of bills designed to reduce crime. That includes funding to build strong communities, as well as recruiting and retaining police officers. Denver 7's Megan Lopez has the details on the state's plan to address the root causes of crime and whether Democrats and Republicans can find a middle ground in their opposing messages.
I want to thank everybody for joining us today.
On a sunny Thursday, 3 weeks into the legislative session,
It's something that cannot be put off or ignored.
a show of force. The governor, Democratic lawmakers, district attorneys, sheriffs, and more speaking on the steps of the state capitol about their plan to address the rising crime rates with a series of bills to put more funding into policing.
This is a package that will improve public safety in the state of Colorado.
The bill will do things like provide grant funding for co-responder models or crime-preventing infrastructure upgrades, focus on recruitment and retention for officers, and more. But one thing they wanted to make clear:
we know that we can't go back to the tough on crime policies of the past that failed to keep our communities safe and only perpetuated violence in our communities.
Sheriff Jamie Fitzsimmons already runs a co-responder model in Summit County and says it's been successful, but it is expensive.
Even with our program, I'm always with hat in hand looking for money. We need to find some sort of sustainable funding for these programs. I truly believe it's the future of policing.
He was one of only a handful of law enforcement officers who joined the governor at that press conference, though. Major police associations skipped out on that event, instead sending a letter to their members that read in part, quote, "While some of the proposed legislative and funding changes may seem positive for law enforcement, our associations have questions and concerns about several proposals and the lack of attention paid to the consequences of recent policy decisions."
This is a campaign pitch. This is not a legislative priority.
Republicans say they also have big concerns with the proposals, in particular the amount of money being requested for these programs.
The Democratic legislature and the governor have requested $150 million this year for electric school buses. This entire package over 2 years is $113 million. That's not a priority.
But Democrats say these prevention efforts are an important step.
We are certainly open to the discussion of additional investments, but this is a strong start.
2 of the bills have already been introduced. 3 others will be introduced in the days to come. Megan Lopez, Denver 7.
And state data shows that some areas of Colorado's violent crime rate have gone up in the past 5 years. This graph shows the state's murder rate. There were 357 murders last year and close to 19,000 assaults. That's up by more than 6,100 from 2017. Well, not only is Colorado seeing a spike in crime, the state is seeing an influx of fentanyl overdoses, and some drug dealers are getting a pass.
Yeah, Denver 7's chief investigative reporter Tony Kowaleski takes a closer look at the fentanyl crisis.
By now, you've probably heard about the concerns not only in Denver, not only in Colorado, but across the country with fentanyl and the abuse issue. Our investigation takes you inside what's happening. We'll go to the streets. Hidden camera video at one of Denver's most iconic locations. What you see just walking into Union Station. Plus, we crunch data over several months. All of 2021, the most serious drug offenders, what happens when they go to court. We'll show you that 45% are failing to appear for some of their cases. Perspective now from a Denver cop and a father who lost 2 to fentanyl. When you see our data analysis, how do you react?
I'm shocked. I'm shocked that many people are being able to escape the system and not be held accountable.
Mr. Gonzalez-Pena has failed to appear.
We had the opportunity to take one of the highest level dealers in the city of Denver and keep them locked up so that they can't sell fentanyl, so more people don't die. It's ruining our city. It's ruining our state.
It's definitely, Tony, the worst day of my life.
Inviting you now to join us for our complete investigation at 10. Tune over to Denver 7 and you'll see what we found. I'm Chief Investigative Reporter Tony Kowaleski.
Thank you, Tony. So let's go in depth. Since 1999, nearly 600,000 people have died from opioid-related overdoses across the U.S. and Canada. An alarming new study published in The Lancet predicts the reality is about to get even worse. Researchers at Stanford University say the pandemic has exacerbated an already dire situation by limiting access to opioid addiction services, overwhelming healthcare systems, and adding stressors like unemployment and loss of loved ones. All of these issues contributed to making 2020 the deadliest year on record for opioid deaths, more than 76,000 across the U.S. and Canada. And if nothing slows the current trend, they project 1.2 million more could die of overdoses by the end of the decade. To put that in perspective, that rate would surpass the worst of the HIV/AIDS epidemic.
Going further, despite the ongoing opioid crisis, the CDC is revising its prescription guidance, and it could make it easier for clinicians to prescribe opioids. The last time new guidance was issued was in 2016, when the agency took a hard line on it in response to an increasing number of fatal overdoses on drugs like oxycodone. As a result, it resulted in many states implementing restrictions on the dosage and duration of opioid therapies physicians could prescribe. Many people complained that those rules caused needless pain to people who really needed the drugs, like cancer patients. The new guidelines indicate clinicians should use more judgment over adhering to rigid requirements, while still emphasizing techniques like over-the-counter pain relievers, physical therapy, as well as acupuncture. The state health department said today that cases of COVID-19 are in rapid decline in Colorado. Colorado is now the 8th lowest in the nation for current COVID-19 hospitalizations. As cases go down, county and school district mask mandates are dropping like flies. CDPHE says the best move is to leave mask decisions up to each jurisdiction.
Local control is a critical component of where we are moving back towards a place where COVID is treated more like, other communicable diseases in our schools and in our community is certainly where we are headed at this point.
CDPHE is still following CDC guidance by recommending everyone wear a mask indoors regardless of vaccination status.
A group in Longmont is helping kids ride into a happier and healthier future by giving them hundreds of all-new bicycles. Denver 7's Sloan Dickey joins us with more. Sloan?
I'm here at Cyclops Bike Cantina, where you can see behind me quite a factory going on right now. These are actually the bikes that are going to be built tonight and donated tomorrow to Northridge Elementary. And to my left, you can see people putting bikes together. I was kind of described to me a little bit like the IKEA of bikes, so people are kind of learning how to put this together and putting together those bikes. There's actually so many volunteers here tonight that each group only gets one bike to put together because so many people have actually volunteered to put these bikes together. Now, the initiative here is to get kids out into nature, to get kids into active spaces where they can actually kind of let off some of that steam instead of sitting in front of a screen or using their phones, which is so common nowadays. So I'm here with Mike, who's actually putting a bike together right now, and he's actually an ambassador for Candade, which is the organization that is spearheading this initiative. So tell me about this bike that you're putting together.
So this is one of the bikes that will be provided by Candade to some very fortunate children tomorrow. It's a BMX style bike. It's a 20-inch bike, which is really fun. Kids can cruise around the neighborhood, or they can jump it off curbs and get a little crazy with it.
And now it's so important for kids at this age to be outside, to get outside. That's really a big part of this initiative. Tell me, what inspired you to be an ambassador for Candade?
So when I heard about Candade's Treads and Trails initiative, I was just very drawn to it because my first sense of freedom growing up was getting on a bike and riding away from my parents without training wheels for the first time. And the fact that we get to have the ability to, give a kid that experience means a lot to me. And it's cool seeing their faces light up when they find out that they get to take a bike home.
All right, so tell me what's going to happen tomorrow.
So tomorrow we're going to show up at the school. We're going to be there with 43 bikes for this specific event. We're going to walk into the gym and they're going to call in all the kids for a meeting. They don't know what's happening at this point. We're going to do a little bike demo, talk about safety. I'm going to jump on my BMX bike, show them some tricks, and then after all that fun stuff is done, I'm going to tell them there's one more surprise, and we're going to give them a brand new bike and a helmet to take home.
Awesome. Well, 43 excited kids tomorrow. Thank you so much, Mike. So great organization doing a lot of work to get kids outside. If you want to help donate or to volunteer, you can go to candade.org and to help give some more kids some bikes. Reporting in Longmont, Sloan Dickey, Denver 7.
Coming up on Denver 7 News at 8. Victims of the Marshall Fire getting ready to rebuild.
I think there's definitely going to be a sigh of relief when the debris removal actually begins.
But homeowners say they're being left in the dark about how to move forward.
Who's doing what and who's reimbursing who, and it's just a really overwhelming process.
We had 50s and 60s today, but cold and snow on the way for tomorrow.
A Denver college carrying on a tradition and honoring their founder by fighting hunger.
I think it's such a beautiful sentiment that she just opened doors. When you're hungry, it's really hard to learn.